All right, welcome to another episode of the Golden Glory podcast, the bi-weekly MMO show that dives beneath the surface, asks the hard questions, and uncovers how you, the player, can maximize your impact in-game. Boy, I'm just stumbling all over the place. Our current focus is the upcoming MMORPG from Artcraft Entertainment, Crowfall. This is episode 7, Werewolves and Guineabeasts. We are broadcasting live Tuesday, March 17th, 2015. And today with us we have Honraz the Economist. Say hello. What have you been doing these past 2 weeks?
Hey everybody, I've been traveling a lot and I've been fortunate to be testing Redacted, and then I got my ass kicked on Redacted for a bit. And then mainly I've been stalking both, forums and Twitter and, working on accumulating more Crowfall pins so I can lord them over to you guys later. So that's really it's been a busy couple of weeks is what I'm saying.
And over in the other corner, we have Werewolf, the virtuous hero. How are you, Mike?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing great. What have I been doing the last 2 weeks? I've been doing a lot of social media, a lot of Twittering, a lot of stalking the Crowfall forums. I helped squash some Chinese bots that tried to get in.
Well played.
Whatever. I don't know if they're Chinese or Korean or whatever language that is, but a few attacks over at the Crowfall forums, we were able to squash those a little bit. Brought out the ban hammer. And as far as what I'm playing goes, I am playing a little bit of Skyforge. I got into the Skyforge beta, so I've been playing some of that. That's been kind of fun. And then also, I've also kind of jumped back into the Secret World a little bit. Been playing that some. But last day or so, couple days, I've been really just diving into some of these new info drops that we got. So looking for. Got new glasses.
Nice.
I can see you all.
Nice.
You all look wonderful, by the way. I just gotta say, all of you out there watching, you look amazing. You were all blurry before, but with the new glasses, you look great.
Awesome. And I am Chief Sarkan, the completionist. The last couple of weeks have been pretty crazy for me. Mostly I've been working on my new blog. It's still a mess, but I wanted a place to put all my old guides because, that's what I do, is a lot of guides and articles, and I've been slowly bringing that in. Been playing a few different games, the Secret World, Diablo 3 recently, just to relieve some stress, and I've also been doing a lot of patchwork. So I don't know if you can see this. I made an embroidery patch for the show. We have our own little fan patch now that in the future somebody might be able to get their hands on one or two of those. We'll just have to wait and see, but part of the family business. But anyway, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and I, too, am looking forward to what has been going on with the Kickstarter and all that stuff. So, Mike, why don't you bring us the news?
All righty. The latest from the GNG News Desk. Here is the latest in Crowfall news. You like that news voice? I'm going to get my news voice out.
Very newsy.
So Crowfall's Kickstarter is now less than $100K away from that $1.3 million milestone, which means that mounts and caravans are going to be included in the core module, which is something that we've really wanted to see for a while. Looks like that's getting really close to happening. And of course, today we did get some information on that. In addition, there's been more stretch goals that have been announced, including at 13,000 backers, which we are currently less than 200 away. Less than 200 away from the 13K backers. Everybody gets a free month of VIP. I kind of take that like we're going to give everyone a free sample of the drug.
Yes.
And say, don't worry, we have more if you need it, right?
That's so
People get used to
awesome.
that skill training and multiple characters and all that fun stuff, so that's going to be awesome. At 14.5 thousand backers, everybody gets a pack animal. That was announced today. How cool is that, James? You've got your pack pig, buddy. You got your pack pig.
I want my baby back pack ribs.
Yeah.
I mean, sure,
Yes.
someone may come and kill him, but that doesn't mean I can't skin him, throw him in my backpack, and go get another one if need be.
With a little barbecue sauce, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
So that's exciting. And then, of course, another stretch goal announced at 1.4 million. And this is huge to me. This, for a lot of people, I haven't heard a lot of talk about this, but this is big. The God's Reach campaign will be a part of the core module. Now, I'm hoping that everybody will kind of get the significance of this, because think about it. The Dregs has been part of the core module for a while, which is considered, at least the way it's been presented, as probably the most hardcore, the most difficult, the least forgiving of the rings. And now, at the 1.4 million mark, if we're able to hit it, which I think we've got a really good shot, suddenly you get one of the lesser risky bands. What you get is where, for example, the example we see is 70% to the winner, 30% to the loser. So less of a risk. The 3-faction campaign. So very, very interesting to see that come into play for the core module. I think that's exciting news, especially for those that have been kind of sitting back and waiting. Boy, do I want to back it? Do I not want to back it? Because, maybe I'm not used to PvP, or maybe this is a new kind of game for me, diving right headfirst into the shark pit. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Well, this campaign may be a better, you've got a larger team to work with, you got a whole faction. This may be enough to motivate some folks to back, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. So that comes at the 1.4 million mark. In addition, J. Todd Coleman announced that Crowfall is currently the 20th ranked video game in Kickstarter history, and that's still with 8 days to go, so there's a lot of push left. So that looks exciting as well, historic for the Crowfall campaign. In addition, and this is something that for some folks has flown under the radar, and I think to a degree it's a good thing it's flown under the radar a little bit, but a lot of folks have been asking about PayPal. How can I want to use Kickstarter, but I can't use PayPal with Kickstarter. Well, now you can. There's a thread on the official forums covering this subject. Originally, PayPal was opened up for just Europe or countries that they had to use PayPal. They couldn't use Kickstarter. But now it is opened up for anybody that wants to use PayPal. It is open for people who can't do Kickstarter. Now, if you have the choice between using PayPal or Kickstarter, you still want to use the Kickstarter for a couple of reasons. First, you want to make sure you use the Kickstarter because that's where the momentum is, that's where the community is, that's where the word is, that's where the news is. But a second reason you want to use the Kickstarter is it's actually a little bit cheaper. In most of the tiers, it's actually $25 cheaper to do the Kickstarter, because in the original pricing model, they were actually underpriced a little bit. So the PayPal is about $25 more. So if you have the choice, to go with the Kickstarter, but it's nice to see that overall total. So far, there's been about 15,000 or so, 14 to 15,000 raised through the PayPal thus far. And that is all I have from the GNG News Desk. On with the show.
That is a lot of news.
Good God,
a lot of news,
and that's not even into the reveals.
No, didn't touch.
So
it.
that's just hitting people's web. I have to give Airwolf and Sarkin credit. They're out there parsing through Twitter, other sites, updates here and there, watching the videos and actually paying attention other than just looking at the images like I do. And so, they're finding information from a news standpoint where, to be honest, Crowfall is in and out of the news, but it's not in a true news cycle. So, but to kick into news cycles, I'm excited to talk about the crafting FAQ that we got. The first bit of reveal that we had that talked about the archetype initial package skills. Does anyone want to comment on that before I go all nuts? Because I have things and emotions and feels to talk about, but it may be better for you guys to go first.
All I'm going to say is how many hours did we spend chatting about really wanting some more reveals during the campaign? Because it seemed like, and this is a good thing, when you're doing interviews and you're visiting the media, and I get it, I've been in pre-launch communities many times. You do have developers that you're in a new pocket of people, right? You want a new pocket of people. You want to give your best elevator speech you can. I get that. I sat there in WildStar with Scooter at Comic-Con, and I remember it seems like this is the same pitch you give everybody. Well, we have to give this pitch because this is a new pocket of people. And then all of a sudden, bam, we get this crafting drop and the character advancement drops,
Yeah.
all that are right in our wheelhouse. And I mean, the joy, if you guys could have seen our Skype conversations, the joy and the celebration that happened, it was something else. It was balloons and glitter were flying out of the monitor. I mean, it was that
Probably
real.
10,000 words in about a half a day.
Yeah, it happened. Smoke was coming out of the keyboard. It was something
It
incredible.
makes me sad that our chat. I mean, I know we save it. We should go back through and parse it because it's like I'll throw out a hypothetical and then we'll reread everything twice, and then we're like, oh no, that's not it. How about this? No, what about this?
Right.
So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Airwolf. I was just going to say the crafting discipline runestones. That caught me by surprise, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts on this because I want to. You're the man. You are the econ PvPer. I want to know what you think on this.
I'm excited about it, and here's the reason why. I'm not excited about the concept of not necessarily having a crafting class, but by making it a requirement to choose. And if you look at it as a spider web of choices, if I choose A, B, or C, and I choose A, that means my other two choices can be something else, or am I going to continue down the crafting path and continue down the crafting path? And there's a good chance that even two of us that are decided to be blacksmiths, because of the complexity of runestones and the ability to pull things up and meet the needs of my guild or meet the needs of the prophet, I could change myself and never have anyone really close to doing exactly what I'm doing, and that's what I want. I besides throwing a label on my item, which don't get me wrong, I respect that greatly. I want someone to come looking and saying, "God damn it! I just saw this 8-foot tall champion run by with a sword longer than he is, and I want one of those." And as the champion was PKing me over and over and over again, he was at least kind enough to say that he picked up the sword from Anres. So now I can go back and repair, and then I need to find this asshole Anres to at least get another sword so I don't die as often. So I think from at least my initial interpretation of the ability to pull and move things around in the rune stones, I think there's going to be a lot of different looking builds. It's not just that I'm a blacksmith disciplined with B and C, and that changes things that I can do. It changes who needs me in the campaigns. It changes my value and what I can be working on at any given time. And that's me.
Yeah, well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I can see that depending on how those runestones implement and how the initial skills that come with an archetype affect the build, I can see there's some variability there that's going to be very interesting and dynamic. What worries me is if the blacksmith rune, using your example, if there's only a blacksmith rune and they're all the same, how does that separate a blacksmith from another blacksmith? Unless there's an advanced blacksmith rune, and there has to be a number of them to show specialization. So you're a blacksmith specialized in swords. Those are two separate runes.
Right.
Or it's a rune that you replace your basic with your specialized.
Well,
either way,
don't the runes though unlock what skills you can get? So wouldn't the blacksmith rune then open up the various skills you could then choose from? Because that's kind of the way I understand it.
Well, it could, but that's what I'm trying to question is because we don't know enough.
Question. It's a good question. So my question is that I open up blacksmith, right? But you have a B and C and I have a B and C. If I open up blacksmith and I open up masonry or some sort of building discipline, does that mean I can build some sort of large siege weapon where you didn't choose a building discipline as your B, you chose something else, so your choices are swords and things like that, you know what I mean? So
well, and that's what I'm getting at.
Open things up. That's a good question.
That's what I'm trying to get at is the choosing to specialize heavily going to require more than one rune, and let's just keep it that simple, or is it like Mike said, you pick a rune and then you select your skill pass as you advance, and let's call them promotional classes based off the rune selection, where we already understand that the promotional classes are based off your archetype role and selection. Do the runes get that same type of advancement tree? If they don't, I'm worried that the crafting specialization is going to be too shallow. Because to me, when I first seen the breakouts on the skill trainings and how to be a crafter, I'm like, well, wait a minute. The only thing you have is some passive skills that you get from your archetype, possibly, some advantage and disadvantage to selected character creation, maybe. We're not even sure about that. And then a rune. And I'm like, how does that set me as a true crafter if I only have one tier of selection to make me a crafter? But to be a fighter, I have 4 tiers because I can use runes, I can be a promotional class, I can be my archetype specific with advanced training, and your advantage and disadvantages all affect that. So, I don't want to be too skeptical, but at the same time, I think we still need a lot more information before we can really
I think
go that way.
I brought in advantages and disadvantages. And so, for all we know, one of the advantages could say, 3 options at your top crafting class, and one of the disadvantages is, well, I'm only going to choose 1. But because I only chose 1, I get more advantages to spend in my combat class. So maybe I'm going to be a weaponsmith only, but I've decided to trade off my future of maces and hammers to be able to swing my sword more effectively. So no, I'm the same. I selfishly, as a crafter, I want to be that crafter. I want to be sought after. I want to build my EK, and this is something Elvine and I have traded lots of chats about, is if you're known and you have the ability to create good things and you have good faucets of good materials, you want people to come looking for you. And I guess making sure that we have the ability to change our skill sets around, that we're sought after and remarkable, I think that's going to be really important for us to keep an eye on coming up soon.
Well, from what I can tell on the official forums, if you look at the type of activity that happens in the crafting forums versus the type of activity and conversations that happens in some of the other places, it's definitely, the opening of a crafting section has been huge.
Huge!
And I've been extremely impressed with the depth of that conversation. So I think that it's very important, and it's obviously, you can tell the kind of people that are jumping into that forum that want to talk about these things and hash these things out. I'm the lunkhead that just wants to go out there and me smash, right? That's me. I'm the guy that's out in the battlefield wanting to kill things, but it's people like you guys that are going to be fueling that. To me, when I saw these disciplines, you guys are saying, "Ooh, blacksmithing, how does this work?" And I'm thinking, there's a werewolf rune.
Yes.
I don't even care if it's good. I don't even care if it's any good. I want to be a werewolf.
A werewolf.
That's me. Like
a werepig.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have my own wolf pack. Arrowwolves, wolf pack. Yeah, go, right? That's me, right? So that's my simplicity, but I think you guys make a lot of good points. I think when you do see, that while true, there's no crafting classes, how deep are these crafting runes? How unique can you be? Again, from what we've seen from the beginning, the promise has been, as a crafter, you can be unique. You can make a name for yourself. That has been bold print. So obviously, if we see a system that could put that at risk, I think we're going to ask questions. And maybe, I'm sure the answers are out there, and maybe they're not ready to show us yet. But at this point, to a degree, we're kind of reading the pilot's manual. Until you get in the air, it's really kind of hard to know exactly how it'll work out. But those are great questions, guys. Those are very good questions.
Well, and this leads us right into the next part here. Sorry to cut you off, James, but the interdependency between crafters, they've really made that a part of what they said also is we're going to need other crafting disciplines to be effective at our craft to drive that community, right? We were all talking about how are we going to interplay and make things then. So that also makes me think, going back to the runes, are you going to not be able to equip certain runes if you have another one equipped? Because they said certain archetypes are not going to be able to equip a rune. For example, I'm theorizing that a centaur can't be a werewolf. It's just not possible, right? So are there going to be crafting runes?
The tiers. Wait, let me stop real quick.
Okay, go ahead. Rant away.
The tiers that you, by saying that even out loud. Now, I agree with you, and I believe that too, but just saying that out loud It was like that Alderaan shot where 1,000 small voices cried out at the same time, saying,
was suddenly silenced.
my centaur can't turn into a wolf. Please mail your tears to me. I'll use them in a martini. God, no, go ahead. Sorry.
But exactly. So if there is and we may be completely off base, maybe a centaur can be a werewolf, but the example's there. If I choose blacksmithing as one of my runes, will that prevent me from possibly also doubling up on trade skills and equipping a different one that's counter to that type of skill? Or are you only allowed to specialize in one crafting rune, period, out of your 3? So I don't think it's going to be that way. However, there are those things that they have to consider. Do they make it to where you can only be 1 or 2 trade skills via runes? Or do they say you can be 3 skills and now somebody's completely independent because they can be a miner, a blacksmith, and a forge master that converts the metal that they mined? So now they've eliminated the need to have interdependency because they can do from rock to sword. See what I'm saying? So, it's just a concern.
No, yeah. No, it's a valid one, but the interdependencies, on the other hand, can also be seen in just the hypothetical crafting screen that they shared a while back, where the helm, again, I keep circling back to the helm because it was something that was talked about by Blixdev in the interview at MMORPG, is, you take the helm. Yes, I've got 3 ingots. I also need a piece of leather, a piece of cloth, and then I can smooth it off with various things. And so we don't know what format. We saw an alloy chart which starts with ore. We don't know what raw cloth is. Therefore, we need someone to take all of the raw cloth that we pick up. Someone's got to refine it to us, because I'm gonna doubt that my awesome helm is gonna be okay with just shreds of cloth fibers in it. Someone's going to have to turn that into something that I can do. So besides the working on the big things like the ballast, the giant crossbows, maybe working on the mines or working on buildings, hell, even just doing a helm, I need materials that are not necessarily in my wheelhouse if I start out as a blacksmith. And I think that creates good churn. I think that creates a good resource requirement churn in the world. Until we get more information on it, I do have concerns like you do, Franklin, that what if I want to be a tailor / blacksmith? So does that split me into some sort of tree that then I get to a certain point and then I've gone so far the opposite direction that I can't reach the top options of these? So learning more, I think, is going to help us out.
Well, I think as far as interdependency goes, what's going to happen in my prediction is this, that if it does turns out for guilds, the interdependency, of course, is going to be a part of the natural ecosystem of the guild. There'll be systems in place. But for more solo-type players or players that tend to go lone wolf or hang out in small groups, people that are really hardcore and want to win, that interdependency is simply going to turn into multiple accounts. They'll just have as many accounts as they need to be able to produce what they need to produce.
Sure.
Well, that's keeping under the assumption that they have the time to play multiple accounts, because I've gotten the impression that even if you have, you can have multiple characters on an account. Then if you have multiple characters, you still have to play them, and you still have to be in campaigns to get the rewards to do them, unless you have a very strong support structure, which sounds like if you have multiple accounts, you probably don't. That's why you have multiple accounts. I'm thinking that they're going to have a very hard time being completely independent, especially as a crafter.
Yeah,
so. I think it would be pretty extreme for someone to just say, I'm going to go solo. I'm sure there are people that'll do it, and I can already see people with 6 screens up running 6 games, but that's pretty hardcore stuff. But there will be people that'll do that kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But no, the interdependency, I think, again, just over and over again, what we're seeing is a game that is being built where building relationships with other human beings in an MMO is going to be extremely, extremely important. So, because I'm going to need my on-res, and I'm going to need my chief, and I'm going to need my lethalities, because I'm going to go out there and try to win on the battlefield. I'm going to try to go out there, hijack some people as they're going to their summoning circle. You're going to throw that in the embargo? No, you're not. You're throwing it in my backpack. Thank you very much. But I'm gonna need some support for that.
Yeah.
So for me, we're gonna need folks like you guys that are building that stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna even take it. I don't even know if I'll take a crafting rune. The werewolf blacksmithing. I'm gonna go werewolf.
Yeah, and again, we don't know from the concept of gathering materials. We know that, there are buffs to get wood harvesting. We know that there are buffs and ways to increase your gathering output. We don't know specifically is a discipline to be able to pluck a piece of grass out of the ground or chop down a tree. So you still can create value for your guilds by being a resource faucet for crafting materials. Without losing any of your necessarily combat spec that you want to do. So we don't know yet. My hope is that everyone, just like everyone can start basically craft, maybe everyone can basically gather. It's just that people who want to spec more and spend more time have more higher end results.
Yeah, and that takes us right to the next couple of parts here. Increased skill reduction failures.
Yes.
As you get better at your skill, they said clearly that your ability to fail is going to be reduced, which I thought was a very interesting take, because they clearly let you know that just because you can craft doesn't mean you're going to be successful. So like you said, even if you start out with basic skills, Mike doesn't want to level up his crafting. He can do it in a pinch because he's got some basic skill, but he needs to take in consideration that I may fail a lot. Now, for those of us that are obsessive...
Expensive crafting there.
Exactly.
You took how many rocks to make that? That's the way I cook now, man. I leave more ingredients on the floor than I actually get into the pot. That's my wife, man. I'm terrible.
But then we skill up, we get better at it, we have less failures. Maybe we use less materials because we're more skilled at it. We don't know that yet, but that RNG question is still there. How much skill do you need to make that percentage of fails, the percentage of loss of materials, worth going for that quote-unquote best piece of gear, right? Because they don't want us to only be driving for the best piece of gear in the game. They want you to judge what you need for the risk and reward. Are you, like it was said in a couple of their different streams, if you carry your best sword for just a small skirmish and you lose it, you're not going to have it when you really want it for the big battle, So it's like, how do you balance that?
Yeah. Quote from chat, and this is a quote, I believe, from the FAQ about the question of will all archetypes start with some crafting? The quote is this: our system is very free form. Each of the archetypes in Crowfall has an initial package of skills, and some of the archetypes will have specific crafting skills in the package.
Right.
So some of them will start with crafting, although we all kind of agree, if I remember right, that we all think that they'll probably be able to max out the same. Do you think that'll impact the max?
I think if you start with as part of your archetype and you don't get a rune that stacks on top of it, you're only ever going to be basic. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I think it's going to give you it's going to give you a jump in your points to start the craft, but it's not going to be any long-term advantage over someone that doesn't start with that package and uses the rune. I think
that's just the birth of the character. So that's just the beginning of the character. So after some time playing, it won't even really matter that much, I suppose.
Exactly. I don't think it's going to be a wash. But the nice thing is if you start with that archetype and don't want to do that craft in an advanced state, at least you have the basic skill. So it's almost like you do get a bonus for that archetype.
Well, you get to start utilizing early resources. So if you start out as an archetype and you all jump into this campaign, unless somebody can make something, we're all running around naked, picking up sticks and throwing rocks. So someone's got to drop into the campaign and create something, right? And
right, because if we're early in the campaign with our sticks and rocks, we need to make sure that we're gathering as quickly as we can, right, James?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, and that's the thing that we need to keep in mind here. We keep talking about crafts that create stuff or crafts that gather stuff. We haven't even touched on the support crafts.
No.
The siege makers, the animal tamers because, well, now we need mounts. We need beasts of burden. Those are specialized skills to be able to go out and find those things just so the gatherer can bring the resources to where the crafter needs them. If we don't have people that specialize in that, we assume potentially everybody's going to have basic riding ability. But if you want to ride a war steed, well, you need a beast tamer that was willing to specialize in it to get you that mount. And then you have to have the riding skill to ride it. There's so many crossovers there.
And the Crow's Cast had a good point about the physics engine. So yes, you could ride some sort of little freebie or some sort of little figurine that you throw on the ground, and I ride a unicorn. On the other hand, if you go over here and tame this,
no unicorns,
700-pound ridiculous
no unicorns, please,
with
they poop rainbows.
That you can
no.
That a champion can ride, some sort of elephant creature. It's going to have momentum, it's going to have mass, and it's going to be able to stomp or charge over the top of things. So absolutely. I mean, even though they've talked about mounts can be found, the ability to tame creatures, that's going to be really interesting. So can I just talk about one thing real quick? When we were talking about the, increased skill, reduced failures, one thing I'm interested in is from a concept of spec, will I be able to choose, I'm going to sacrifice a little of A to give my item a bit more to decay. Do you know what I mean? So can I I could do crit plus 20, but it's only got a life cycle of 50 damage. Or can I go crit 10 and go 60 on damage? And then my other piece is, I can't imagine the really thin line that Blixsteven team is going to have to walk on what it costs to repair an item. When I repair an item, does it go from 50 down to 40? And then I repair it again, does it go from down to 30? Because we've got to have long-term attrition.
Well, and I think that no matter how durable a weapon starts or an item starts, and I think that's where crafting specialization is coming in. I think you hit the nail on the head there. The better the crafter, the better the durability, the longer the life cycle the item can have. But then you bring in the next point, well, is someone going to be specialized to repair it properly, and can they bring it back up to 100%, 98%, 90%? But it eventually has to die or just break in battle, or it ruins the entire economy. And I think both avenues, would be the most beneficial way to do it. The better the crafter, the more durability you can give something. The better the repair, the longer you can keep repairing it. But eventually it has to just fail. It has to get to that breaking point that it just shatters on you. And you have to be aware of that. So it's the only way to keep the crafters in the campaign,
Yeah, and then the last big piece for me on the crafting FAQ was thralls, and I threw out a thread on the crafting section about what are thralls and what aren't they. And so far they seem to be a lot, right? I mean, if I take what Blixstev said in his MMORPG.com interview about, I'm going to grab this Forge Master thrall and I'm going to stuff him into my hammer, and now I'm going to hammer and make stuff even better. And then I hear, but thralls can also be NPC shopkeepers. It's like, is there a big box store full of thralls? Is there some, is there a thrall? Is there a thrall for this? You get a thrall and you get a thrall. I mean, I'm excited to see what they are, but I'm worried that I'm reading too much into them.
We're enthralled with thralls. There's thralls everywhere.
Absolutely. So,
well, from a lore standpoint, it seems like the thralls are us. The fallen warriors that haven't been picked up by crows yet to be brought back to the battlefield by the gods. So, essentially, I could see them being both. You have thralls that you can use and stand up and give form, or you stuff them in your item. And it's interesting. So are they taking thralls that are used on items as like an enchantment? Or are they going to be more like a rune that you stick on an item rather than yourself? And so it's interesting how they're going to make that play out, and whether the use of thrall as a shopkeeper was a Freudian slip, or just it is what you said. They're can be used in multiple ways.
Blicksteph just gave the quote of the podcast.
What'd you say?
Shop smart, shop Thrallmart.
There we go.
There we go. Bingo. Nice.
It is. It really is. So,
Good stuff.
and again, do we know if there's a shaper of thralls? We know that people that can shift runestones around, right? So maybe all thralls drop as A, and by default they can be used for A, but maybe the ability sent thralls, I think thralls can be traded. Maybe they can, maybe they can be shaped. Maybe they can be refined. Maybe I can take the idiot thrall over here that can only carry a spear, and if I beat him over the head enough and run him through my thrall mill, he comes out as an NPC vendor. I don't know. I'm excited to see.
And maybe we can combine thralls, so it's like you harvest, like you're mining. You get so many metals, and you have different types of thralls that you malleable change. It's its own crafting discipline. You have to take a thrall manufacturing rune, put it on your character, and then now you're a thrall manufacturer. That's an interesting thought. Really interesting.
For sure. Now, I know we got to talk about character progression, but did we touch on mass production at all?
We did not. Very good catch. We need to talk about that because, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I think the concept of being able to have, and didn't they use the word thrall?
Yeah,
they
I
did.
thought they did.
Having thralls
Dun, dun, dun.
mass produce armor for you? I mean, is that like imagine, because you think about it, I mean, the logistics of being able to manage equipment an entire, there are guilds that have at one time on the battlefield are going to have who knows how many hundred fighters. Yep. The idea of managing equipping that many people with what they need, can you imagine the chaos of, well, who am I trading with now? Wait, click me. No, oh, you hit me. Great, good job. Free for all for the lose, right? I mean, just the idea of managing that, but to being able to mass produce and then set those up in like an armory, like where they can just buy it like a vendor.
Yeah.
Tully just said we need to stop using the word thrall.
Tell it, you throw us a new word and we'll start using it.
I'm telling you, go to every one of your pages. It says thrall somewhere.
Blickstep, it's like that Laura Ipsum stuff that you use for fake font on the internet. You just use it as filler. I'm not sure we're going to call this. Call it a thrall.
So what do you guys think about the value of, the idea of mass producing as a producer of crafts, is that a positive thing for you guys?
Yes and no. From a basic standpoint, so say we just want a tier 1 weapon. We want 100 basic swords.
Right.
And you're a master crafter, then yes, I say you have the ability to mass produce a hunk of steel 6 inches long that has a couple of sharp edges. And you could basically have your apprentice, the thrall in this case, make them for you, right? But if you want a high quality, very well done item, I don't think you can mass produce them. That would just go against even if you're a master crafter, there has to be a certain level where you can say, no, I cannot mass produce this kind of item. It's going to take my attention if I want it done correctly.
Yeah, so I'd use the you can shop at Anra's Mart to get 100 of those sharp pointy things to keep back the tide of early winter. But if you need something very specific, then you need to go to the Anres rack to have it specifically custom created or something. So maybe one of the my output options is I dump it into my thrall, I set it up, and it's dumping straight into the whatever the shared concept. What is the shared concept of the? Remember Blickstep mentioned it last time. The cache. So I'm in the campaign, and I can't stand there and going, "Who needs a sword? Who needs a sword?"
Right.
No one has time for that. So maybe my thralls can output a bunch of generic items without having to fine tune it, like Chief said, directly into the cache. Yet, if Arrowwolf is about ready to go head to head with someone who's really important, then maybe he needs to swing by and get some very specific measurement stuff done for an item.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be key to the whole what separates the basic supply officer for whatever craft you are, do you have the ability to get people out on the field quickly with your mass producing while you're also pumping out a couple of special things for your generals or your main people? Right. And that's going to provide
or your Airwolf.
Yeah. The big hammer for Airwolf because he wants to go be your werewolf that, But, just remember, don't shop on Resmart because I have an alchemist thrall on station and I give out free smoothies with every item. Just saying. So shop Sarkhan Mart.
This is great. So that's a great talk, and we've still got some time, I guess, to talk about. Any other thoughts on that? I mean, we could probably spend 3 hours talking about this stuff, right?
Well, it is our bailiwick, so yes, but we better move on.
Yeah, but the trouble is that the character progression stuff, in my opinion, dropped as much crafting speculation as the specific stuff the other one. Because I mean, if you parse through it, they only used the word crafting a couple of times in the first release, and they only used craft once in the second. But the trouble is, if you think about where things come from, where they have to come to be managed from, what are the faucets, what are the sinks for both resources, for rune stones, for relics? Relics can be crafted. Artifacts can be crafted. I mean, boom! They just dropped more stuff. They just dropped more stuff that we can speculate on. So yeah, I think the character progression jumps right into our wheelhouse too.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
So character creation. Let's just start right at the top of it. I mean, that really, how detailed do you guys want to see character creation be? Understanding that the class or archetypes are kind of limited at the moment as far as your class or your role or your whatever. You start out as a base archetype. How many of them are there now? 12?
A dozen archetypes.
A dozen archetypes, right. So, but what do you want to see in basic character creation to really make it stand out? I mean, we've heard the basic archetypes is where you start, but what from there?
Right. So the concept of character progression, which is the big drop we got on finally, how are we going to develop our characters? And that's, of course, we saw that really cool image of the Templar and the different runes and the different promotion classes. In character creation, here's what's interesting to me is that, of course, we know about the advantages and disadvantages system. In fact, if you paid close attention on the interview with Billy and Larissa, we saw actually that character creation screen animated with the knight character actually moving, and you could see them selecting some of those runes. So it's kind of cool to see that UI in action. So, plus 8 gender variants, Gordon just mentioned. So not only do you have the 12 archetypes, there are 8 gender variants within those archetypes.
So man, female, what are the other 6 gender choices? No, you're saying 8 of them have... Oh, okay. 8 of them have male or female choices.
Correct.
Thanks, Gordon. That was really confusing there for a sec.
That's a nice little tidbit to know there. I don't think they've actually said that.
Yeah. Well, some of them are going to have male and female. We just got, of course, we got the centaur female just added, right. Which is awesome. Go male centaurs! Congratulations on that.
Go make families.
Yeah. So we got right. So the idea of at the beginning. This is different. A lot of games for the last 10 years have not allowed this. You can really screw up your character if you don't pay attention. You can really break your character. There's not a lot of hand-holding, and I think there's going to be a lot of use for the forums and saying, hey, what should I do here? People that care are going to ask, and of course you're going to get 1,000 different answers because there may not be one right way to do it. Jay and I, my brother Jason and I were talking yesterday, and he talked about some of the old MMOs he played, some of the weird builds he was able to make that were in no guides. They weren't in any wikis or anything. These were just stuff that he created himself, and he was able to find some success in doing what he wanted. So I think you're going to find people that'll say, yes, if you're going to be a centaur legionnaire, you got to start your character this, and this. But, because people like to be right on the internet. But I think there's going to be flexibility for some people to do some really weird things. I think that's great. And some really dumb things, too, I'm sure.
Well, and I think with the advantages and disadvantages in the system, with what little we've seen, I don't think we could ever quantify any of them being the right combination for any particular archetype. I think it's going to come down to your play style. How do you actually play the character? Because in too many games, you get a class and everybody says, this is the best build. But you know what? If you're not comfortable playing with the way that build is designed to be played, it doesn't matter if it's the best if you can't pull it off. And I'm hoping that with the way the advantage and disadvantage in systems, when you come in and choose it, it's going to be more towards how do you like to play and what do you like to do, more so than this is the best model. Because you have so many different layers of character progression, that advantages and disadvantages, which you may or may not be able, I think they said you could adjust it a couple of times during your process, is really going to come down. That's going to set you apart.
You can adjust it when you choose your promotion class. So
yes, but can I choose a disadvantage that says I can't? Boom.
Oh, you called it.
That's it. So I want to play the long con. I want to make my choices and get extra benefits and just let the cards fall where they may. But it's going to be interesting because as people continue to move and ebb and flow, the min-maxing is going to happen. But because there's 3 or 4 things that come into play, are you really going to truly know what the best of anything is until we're pretty far into the game?
What do you guys think about the ability for a guild leader? Let's say he's recruiting an army. He wants an army of scouts, and they've min-maxed it to their opinion to the degree where they know what skills you need. What do you guys think about the idea of a guild requiring certain builds for certain things?
Go ahead, James.
I think that it will be tolerated until it's intolerable. And
that's profound.
The moment that they start forcing
that.
people to play formats that are not fun for them is the format that those people will find other guilds. I mean, that's just how it is. Just remember back in the old days, you would spec your paladin for healing, even though you hated healing because no one would take a DPS paladin.
Well, were you watching me play? That was me. That was me. That was exactly me.
Oh, you want to go to Molten Core? You're a DPS paladin?
Out of combat, Reser, and buff spot. That was it. That was me.
As soon as they force people into playing a format that is not fun, they will move on. But the trick is, can they help through guilds and through other people, equip people and train, and let people know some tips and tricks that maybe the character will be fun.
Now, on that same regard, and this is something we kind of talked about in our private chat. I don't think we covered it on the cast. What do you think about the ability to inspect another player to see what skills they have?
I don't think so. For me, the evasive or it seems too prying, too evasive into your character. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that at all. Personally,
I think I should
not in this game. Not in this game. In other games, yes, but not this game.
I mean, if the character model changes by armor, I should know armor. If the character's wielding a sword, I know they wield a sword. If certain skill sets have, remember we got ourselves an extra Eric. Where's the extra Eric, Tully? Tully, where's our extra Eric? Right? He's doing particle effects. So if certain attacks or certain specs give a blue sparkle instead of a pink sparkle, then we'll learn things, but may or may not make choices. I hate people getting that granular. I think that people who are so detail oriented related to that miss maybe playing with funner people who want to have blue particle effects instead of pink particle effects. I think
it'd be perfectly fine for them to know what promotional class you chose, but there should be no details. No specific skills you chose. You shouldn't be able to look at somebody's advantages and disadvantage. You might be able to look and go, what tradecraft are you for your own team? But that should be part of also the community. So I don't think being able to right-click somebody and get that information promotes community. It should be, you want to know something about you, ask me a question.
Right.
So it's a really hard fine line. I mean, you want to have some level of ability to help manage your raid, if that's what you want to call it, to know how many of X promotional class you are. Because if you're directing the battle, and I'm assuming that these battles will take time and effort and coordination, if you can't say, hey, can I have my 3 Templars head over here because I know their abilities, generally speaking, are good for blocking this intersection, while you guys go do this because your abilities are more towards protection. You got to have some level of information, but you don't want to just give the whole ballywhack detailed information like you get in a lot of games. WoW is a big one where you can just click on somebody and you know exactly everything that they can do, and it's like it's too much information.
Yeah,
I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys on that. I for example, you take a game like World of Warcraft, where and again, why do people keep talking about WoW? I don't know. Everybody knows what it is. It keeps
coming. Point of reference. It's a point
of reference. It's out there. I mean, I could just as easily switch to EverQuest, but not as many people would get the point of reference.
In
right?
that game, I liked the idea because as a raid leader, the stats and the gear were almost everything. But here's what that leads to. The ability to inspect, and Elvine touched on this earlier in chat, inspect always leads to armories.
Yes, and always leads to item scores.
Yeah.
Well, it's now I can go in, and I see that, and I did this. Honestly, I did this in Warcraft. I would see somebody in the open world. I had the armory open on a second screen. I would look them up, and I would know what gear they had before I even engaged the fight.
Yeah.
And so I don't see a way to have an inspect without that problem.
Well, and I think you can, like I said, if all it gives is your promotion class.
The promotion class, right.
If that's all it tells you, fine, because they already said that hopefully the gear levels are flat enough. It doesn't matter what gear they're wearing. It's coming down to your ability. It's coming down to your technique. If the gear diversity is so great that you need to know what gear they're wearing before you engage them in PvP, you're probably playing the wrong game anyway.
Yeah. Can I just jump in here? Well, I can't let the podcast finish without talking about just generically runes. Just runes in general. So it's part of the second one. Can I just say that we've been having a hell of a fun time. Special thanks out to Tully and Elvine for doing the discussion about getting a crafting forum around. Because when you think about runes and the think that we can get them from campaigns, maybe winning campaigns have a set rune set that you can win. We can find them. Hey, are they lootable? If I'm carrying around a rune that I got by winning last campaign,
I hope they are,
and I'm too lazy to use it, or I'm too dumb to leave it in the bank, and I take it with me, is it lootable? Boy, when we talk about the concept of currency and we talk about the long term of, I think you had it right. Ectos back in Guild Wars 2, Ring of Jordans in Diablo 2, Arcane Crystals there for the longest time in World of Warcraft. Yep. You would use those as currency because they were just better.
Oops.
They were just better. And so the runestones being able to be used in and bringing them in and out of campaigns, if you're willing to take a risk and carry a bunch with you, as the seasons change, your character can change. And as the seasons change, what you can do for your guild and bring value to your team can change. But you're carrying risk. You're carrying things that can then be looted by other people. And that, to me, is extremely exciting. It brings in a lot of crafting. It brings in a lot of strategy. I thought it was a great reveal. I was one of the most exciting things about the reveal next to the big pig.
Yeah, my only concern about that is it sounds fine if your rune, once you slot it, gives you everything that you can do with that as far as abilities and skills. But if you change out a rune and then you have to level it up after the fact, it completely invalidates changing out runes for most people, because now you have to work during the campaign to try and get that back up. So like we were saying, whether it's blacksmithing or being a werewolf, you can be a basic werewolf by popping the rune in. But what if you don't actually get to do certain things until you've leveled it up? And I'm hoping actually that is the case, because I would hate to see to where you level up a rune all the way to the max and then you swap it out, and then later on you can swap that rune back in because you have a stack of them, and your abilities are right back to where you left them out.
You got to etch-a-sketches.
So, I mean, if you pull a rune out, you should lose everything that you ever did forever associated with that rune if there's a level up with the rune.
Yeah, we're begging you, Blickstev and the team. You got to etch-a-sketch it for runes. Nothing was more annoying in Guild Wars 2 is that you could just swap back and you can change back and forth your crafting professions, and other games are the same way. If you're going to take the risk and shift from rune A to rune B, you can't, if it's truly a plug-and-play skill set, you unplug, you should lose those skills. At least that's how I sure hope it is. I can't for the life of me believe that 8 months after game launch, everyone's going to have like 30 rune skill sets, and they're just plugging in. Boom, I'm from this guy at max level. Boom, now I'm this guy at max level. Well, then what's the point?
Yeah.
It's from The Incredibles. If everyone's amazing, then no one really is amazing.
Boom.
Well, and that leads us to the other part of that, the promotion class. They've already confirmed that once you make that choice, you're locked in. You're not changing it. And I think that's a phenomenal way that ties in and says choices matter, and you better make it and stick with it because you're re-rolling otherwise. You know.
If you take a rune out, it's done. It's done. Like that, the skills, if you could just, because I just want to touch on that real quick. If you could just flip-flop runes, where's the choice there?
What are you, freaking Big Ben 10 from the Cartoon Network? I'm this guy. Now I'm this guy. No, now I'm this guy.
Well, keeping in mind, runes are destroyed when you change them out.
But you still can get another one. Yeah, I mean,
right, but the skills that you learned because of that rune should be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want to do it again, you should have to start from zero.
Yeah, I hope so. I sure hope so.
Because the last thing you want to have is a whole bunch of blacksmith runes in your bag that you can just throw in anytime you need to make some armor. That's, we'll put it in when we're in the EKs where we can craft, and then I'll pop in a different one when we're in the campaigns. I can already see that being a broken mechanic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If I don't see that happening.
And I think we could go on and on about this. Unfortunately, we were quickly running out of time here.
Ooh, the clock,
the clock. I know, the evil clock. So, do anybody have any last minute things to talk about character progression? Since we really didn't give it enough time, I think we should carry some of that over to the next episode and really dig in deep to that.
Right, because we want to talk a little bit deeper about this. We also we didn't even touch on the caravans and the pack animals and stuff like that, which we've kind of touched on, but that's definitely something that deserves a lot more time than we have today, for sure.
Well, and hopefully next show we'll have hit that milestone in the
and they'll be in
Kickstarter, and then we can really delve into it because we'll get a FAQ on it. Another one, right?
Sure.
So before we get out of here for the night, we did have a question over on the our forum section. I'm mind blanking.
The Throne.
Crush the Throne. Yes, on our forums.
Fan forums. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, getting tired. But anyway, this question came from the Martini, and it says, will there be a level system, or will it be purely skill being upgraded and progression? If yes, what is the max level? Well, there is no levels. It is skill based. If no, how do you think it will improve or inhibit the game? So that's the crux of the question we're here to discuss. What do you think, Mike?
Well, as far as the skill system, I've personally, the only game, I've played 2 games that were skill-based leveling. Well, I'm actually playing one now, because Skyforge is also kind of a skill-based leveling, but it's a lot different. It's nothing like this at all. But the Secret World was skill-based leveling, but EVE Online is really the only thing close to what I've played as far as skills go. What are the pros and cons? So the advantages of this type of system is that it makes it so the gap between new players and experienced players isn't nearly as big. You're not looking at somebody that's level 5 going to get up against somebody that's level 20, or falsely kind of bumping that level 5 up to be kind of a fake level 20 just so there could be somewhat of a fight. There's definitely strength. There's definitely advantages in being a higher level, but it takes that gap and makes it much smaller. You have a wider base of choices rather than a higher base of choices. The disadvantages is in a system like this where time is involved in your progression, where you've got the passive skill leveling, where you're now leveling 3 skills passively. Is the danger, and this is a big design question, the danger is somebody that doesn't have the time in may feel as though they have no chance to catch up. Now, again, a game that's designed well can avoid this by making your choices meaningful so you can still spec your character the way you want to play within a relatively short period of time. I think part of that is going to be accomplished with the active skill leveling that you'll be doing, because about the first 20% of each skill will be done actively. You're going to be hitting something with the sword. You're going to be, making something as a blacksmith. So I think it sounds as if, and in fact, the interview that I saw with Marky Dragon, which was outstanding, by the way. The interview with Gordon Walton and Tom or Blickstev in chat here was outstanding, because he really talked about the idea of making it so there's something fun or rewarding up front. So it's not like Eve, where you say, hey, I want to do this, and you look at, okay, well, 3 months from now I might be able to do that. Yep. So the idea of the leveling in Crowfall definitely looks like it's going to be fun and interesting, and I think it's more positive than it is a negative for sure.
I definitely want to think. I really do think that they're working on that kind of the feeling of that barrier to entry, but it's definitely not going to be a set it and forget it, like you said. It's not just going to be something like, well, in an amount of time I'll eventually be good. You can spend active effort where new players, again, with multiple worlds. Maybe you may not have as much time to play, but if you're playing some earlier world sets and you're able to be successful those earlier world sets, you may be catching up to people that are in the dregs, getting their ass handed to them every day. That barrier to entry, the difference between the characters will eventually start to level out. Now, they're going to have better resources. They're going to be having more better equipment, and there are things like that which you'll have to move down world to get, but eventually you'll be able to feel more comfortable in the character, and I think you'll be able to progress in a logical way that doesn't have that barrier to entry play.
Well, and I think the key thing that they did say in the interview is the fact that even in your passive training, you get about 70%, I think they said, kind of up front. So your heavy hitting long time skills, you're going to see benefits early on once you make the choice to skill it. Now, that last little bit could take a very long time, but that's your conscious choice to really want to max it out to the farthest ability, and that's going to separate those dedicated to a certain type of gameplay and a certain skill than those others. And you see this in even Eve. If you want to fly a capital ship, some of those abilities take 6 months real time to fly the thing. But that's at the expense of training anything else. So the ability to train 3 skills passively lets you pick one of those really long trainings while doing some short stuff that's going to make you competitive right up front. So I think they're addressing that new player, veteran player gap very effectively. Not having levels will definitely keep it from ever feeling like you can't walk on the battlefield with 0 skill and be effective. I think they're on the right track. Now, how effective will it be to not be completely owned the first time you walk on the field? Well, that remains to be seen, because, well, I could be a veteran player, but I'm still not very good at PvP. I'm probably going to get owned even if I have all the abilities.
Sure.
That's just the way the nature of skill base is. It still takes skill to play.
Right. So. Exactly right. 100% true. So that's a great question. Thank you, Martini, for that question. We do have our own forum section. We do take questions both on the official forums. If you go to the fan site section, we do have a thread there that is updated with all of our new episodes under the Golden Glory podcast. We also have our own forum sections at the crushthethrone.com forums. We love questions there as well. We do like to interact with the community, and we always like to end the show with a couple of community questions. So we appreciate those very well. And this is actually a great time to kind of end this week's discussion, guys. Those of you watching the podcast, whether here live on YouTube or on the RSS feed or on iTunes, If you want to chat with us between shows, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Gold and Glory PC. That's on Twitter, Gold and Glory PC, or on Facebook at Gold and Glory Podcast. We also have our website, goldandglorypodcast.com, where we do update our episodes shortly after they are posted. So later this week, the new episodes will be live up on that site as well. And until next time, if you're looking to follow me on the internet, if you'd ever want to for some strange reason, I am on Twitter at Arawolf, ARAWULF. I do blog at thewolfden.com. And Anrez, where can folks find you, sir?
Well, if you have no fear for 139, 140, whatever Twitter is, really, I can't really squeeze all my witticisms in 140 characters, but I damn try. I try real hard.
Depends on how many extra letters you throw in the words, too.
Absolutely. So, Anrez, ANHREZ, out on Twitter is the best way to follow me. I'm also lurking in the forums for both crafting. Now on the Crowfall forums, if you go in there, there's a good chance you'll see my name in there. So throw me a friend invite.
Absolutely. And Chief?
Chief, I am Chief Sarkan. You can find me over on Twitter, Twitch, and all those as Chief_Sarkan. I also have a blog. It's the MMOchief.com. I'll put the link there in the chat. And yeah, be sure to catch us up on the forums. I'll be throwing 50 points over to T Martini for the excellent
crush
question.
Coins. Yeah,
the crush coins.
At Crush the Throne forums, they got these really cool currencies. They got crush coins. You can buy cool little doodads for your forum avatar and stuff. It's cute.
So make sure you get over there and ask us questions, because every once in a while we will throw some coins out to you, so you can get your own Crowfall emblem if you want for your forum posts. So I'm going to throw some at Team Martini for that excellent question, and we hope to see you all in the very near future in another show. Thank you for coming out, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Take care.